Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. I was kneeling by the couch, holding a torn garbage bag that had just burst open. My old flannel shirt, a birthday card from 2017, and the charger to a phone I no longer owned spilled across the floor. I wasn't cleaning. I wasn't organizing. I was being erased. Thought I'd help declutter, Faye said casually, leaning against the doorframe with a mug in her hand. Not coffee, not tea. Wine. It was 2:40 p.m. on a Wednesday. I didn't say anything. I just started picking up my stuff silently, trying to decide what was more humiliating. That she tossed my things in a trash bag, or that I still cared. She took a sip and added, "Honestly, I only like you after a few drinks anyway." It was that one sentence. That one sentence. She didn't shout it. She didn't slur it. She said it like she was commenting on the weather. And she laughed. Not a nervous laugh, not a drunk laugh. A laugh that said she believed it. A laugh that sliced straight through every memory I'd been clinging to. I froze with one hand still on the charger. My body was still. My mind wasn't. I started thinking about the last few months, how she started using words like space and freedom, how she avoided dinner unless there were other people around, how she didn't kiss me goodnight anymore unless I asked. Even then, it felt like charity. I thought about how she started getting texts at 11 p.m. and silencing her phone, how she always showered after coming home, not before bed like she used to, and how my name, Emery, went from sweet to sour in her mouth. And then I looked at the bag again. She didn't throw out anything of hers, just mine. My shirts, my books, my memories. I stood up, still gripping the edge of the bag. My voice didn't shake, not because I was brave, but because I was numb. "I'm done," I said. She tilted her head. "What?" "I'm done. Go pack. You're out." Her smirk evaporated just like that. Her wine stayed frozen at her lips. "What's your problem now?" "You laughed," I said quietly. "But I didn't, and I'm tired of being someone you tolerate when you're buzzed. That's not love. That's cruelty." She scoffed. "Oh my God, you're being sensitive again. I was kidding." "You don't joke like that about people you respect." And for the first time in what felt like forever, she didn't have a comeback. Her laugh stopped instantly. After I told her to pack her things, Faye didn't argue. Not really. She just stared at me like I interrupted a movie she was enjoying and then walked off barefoot, calm, still holding her wine. No tears, no shouting, just a shrug. That shrug was somehow louder than any slap. I slept on the couch that night, not because I was kicked out, but because I didn't want to lie beside someone who could laugh at me in front of strangers and call it a joke. I stared at the ceiling and thought about all the things I'd missed, all the little signs I'd swept under the rug just to keep the peace. The next morning, she was gone. No note, no goodbye, just an empty closet, an open bottle on the counter, and a strange silence in the apartment, the kind that hums in your ears like a warning. I started cleaning. That's what I do when I panic. I fold socks, I organize drawer labels, I clean out dryer lint like it's therapy. I figured I'd wash the bed sheets. Erase the scent of lavender mixed with lies. When I heard a metallic clink in the dryer drum, I reached in. It was a necklace. Not hers. This one was chunky, silver, masculine. A dog tag, actually, but not military. Just engraved J plus F. Trust the fire. My hands went cold. I stared at the tag, turning it over again and again, like it would somehow spell my name if I looked long enough. But no, J plus F. Not E plus F. Not us. I opened her bottom drawer, the one she always told me not to touch because it was just old stuff. I felt like a thief in my own home, But at that point, I was ready to be guilty of anything except being blind. Inside was a folded t-shirt, not mine, a cologne bottle I'd never worn, and a second toothbrush. I sat on the edge of the bed holding that dog tag and finally said it out loud to no one. She's been bringing someone here. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break something, but instead, I just whispered, "Of course." Like it was a punchline I should have seen coming. Because when someone says they only like you drunk, what they really mean is you sober, you real. I can't handle that. But someone else could. Someone who left behind his necklace, someone who was in my bed, someone who probably laughed with her when I wasn't around. I wasn't just tired. I was humiliated, overlooked, replaced in my own space. So I did what I never thought I'd do. I picked up my phone and called her mother. And that's when the story took a very different turn. Calling her mother wasn't some revenge tactic. I wasn't looking to expose Faye or get her in trouble. I called because for 3 years, her mom had been the only one who ever treated me like I mattered. Ruth was sharp, always honest, sometimes too much, but she had a warmth that felt rare on Faye's side of the family. She used to tell me, "You bring balance to her chaos." I guess I thought she'd at least give me some closure. She picked up on the second ring. "Emery? Everything okay?" I nearly choked. I wasn't okay. Nothing was okay. I was sitting in my bedroom holding a stranger's necklace, staring at the empty space in the closet where my wife's things used to be. "I think she's been cheating," I said flat out. "I found a man's necklace. It says J plus F, truss the fire. You know anything about that?" Silence. Long enough that I checked to see if the call had dropped. Then a quiet inhale. "He found it, huh?" That sentence changed the entire rhythm of my heartbeat. "I found it in our dryer, along with a shirt that isn't mine, a toothbrush that isn't mine, and a note she probably thought I'd never read." I hadn't mentioned the note yet, but now I had to. It was taped under the inside of her desk drawer, folded in half like a secret meant for only one set of eyes. It said, "Counting down the days until we don't have to lie anymore. Fire can't stay hidden forever." Jay. I thought she'd deny it. I was ready for gaslighting. I was even ready for screaming. But Ruth, she just sighed. A long, exhausted sigh, like this had been building for a while. "I told her to stop it months ago," she said finally. "Told her it would blow up in her face. But you know Faye, once she lights a match, she has to watch the fire burn." I felt my stomach twist. "So you knew?" "I suspected. She changed. Started skipping family dinners, talking in riddles, getting bolder with her lies. And when she stopped bringing you around, I figured it had gone too far." She wasn't saying this like it was gossip. She sounded guilty, sad even, like she'd watched a slow-motion crash and couldn't stop it. "Who's Jay?" I asked, even though I already had a guess. She hesitated again. "You're not going to like this." "Tell me anyway." "It's Jonah." That name, that cursed name. Jonah, her old friend from art school. The free spirit she swore was just a buddy. The guy who lived in a van for 2 years and sold sculptures made of scrap metal. The guy she told me not to be jealous of because, in her words, he's not the settle-down type. I laughed, but not the funny kind. The kind that cracks in the middle. "Jonah," I repeated. "Of course it's Jonah." And then Ruth said something I'll never forget. She always liked the way he made her feel reckless. You made her feel safe, but she stopped wanting safe a long time ago. I'm sorry, Emery. You didn't deserve this. I ended the call not because I was angry, but because I realized something. I'd been in love with the version of Faye that didn't exist anymore, the version who wanted stability, loyalty, a future. She had buried that version probably the day she started keeping another man's toothbrush in our bathroom. But I hadn't buried mine. Not yet. I should have stopped digging. I really should have. But when someone lights your whole life on fire, you don't just stand there and warm your hands. You want to know how many matches they used. After that call with Ruth, I didn't sleep. I sat in the kitchen rereading that note from Jonah over and over until the words lost meaning. Trust the fire. What was that supposed to mean? That it was okay to burn me down if they did it together? By sunrise, I was staring at Faye's laptop. It was sitting on the dining table like a dare. She'd always been careless with it. Never used a password. I used to think it was because she trusted me. Now I wonder if she just didn't think I was smart enough to look. I opened it. I didn't expect to find anything, but she had left her browser tabs open. There was a travel site, one-way flights to Santa Fe, a Pinterest board titled Tiny Desert Wedding, but the worst was in her email. There was a folder marked Art School Files. Inside were chat transcripts, hundreds of them, all with Jonah. They spanned over a year. I opened the most recent. The first line hit like a punch. Did he cry again? God, he's so soft. You'd cry too if your wife only liked you after wine. He doesn't even suspect how often you've been in our bed. Remind me to thank him for keeping the sheets warm. My hands started shaking. I wanted to stop, but I couldn't. Every message was like a new betrayal. She had told him things I'd only told her in whispers. My fears, my insecurities. She turned my heart into punchlines. My breakdowns were memes to them. He folded my laundry the other night, even matched the socks. I nearly laughed in his face. He sounds like the perfect houseplant. That one stuck with me. A houseplant. Something you water occasionally and ignore the rest of the time. I don't know how long I sat there just staring. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just felt this thick, hollow kind of sadness, the kind that sits in your lungs and makes breathing feel like work. I had tried so hard to be enough for her, to keep the house calm, the bills paid, the love steady, and she didn't just leave, she paraded my loyalty like a costume, something she could take off and laugh about. And in those messages, I saw the worst part. Jonah didn't even love her. He was amused by her. He entertained her like a child with a new toy. He called her reckless candy, said she was sweet until she melted. They weren't in love, they were just bored, and I was their entertainment. That broke something in me worse than any affair ever could, because betrayal hurts, but being laughed at, being dismissed like a joke, that rots you from the inside out. After reading those messages, I shut her laptop and sat in the dark until the room started spinning. I couldn't tell if it was from exhaustion or embarrassment, maybe both. I was ready to vanish, to disappear quietly and let her have whatever chaos she wanted. But I wasn't done being humiliated yet, because that morning, I got an invitation. It came in a small off-white envelope slipped into our mailbox, handwritten, no return address. It was a wedding invitation. At first, I thought it was a cruel prank, but when I opened it, I saw Jonah's name printed in bold letters next to someone else's. A woman named Clarity. Clarity? What kind of name is that? The invitation said they were getting married in 3 weeks, but that wasn't the part that made my knees go weak. It was the note scribbled on the back in Faye's handwriting. Going to be wild, don't miss it. I blinked, read it again, and then again. My hands started sweating. I could barely breathe. Why would she invite me To rub it in? To see if I'd show up and crumble or worse? Was this her way of admitting Jonah had never actually picked her? I called her, straight to voicemail. I texted, "What the hell is this?" No reply. But an hour later, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Clarity. She sounded bright, like the kind of person who smiles while talking to telemarketers. "Hi, you must be Emery. Jonah said you might be surprised. I know it's weird, but Faye insisted you come. Said you were family. We'd love to have you." I nearly dropped the phone. She said that? She said you'd want to support her new chapter, that you were very accepting. I almost laughed. Accepting? Accepting of what? Of being replaced? Lied to? Turned into some punchline at a wedding I didn't even know was happening? I didn't say anything. I just hung up. But now I was boiling. Not just from rage, but from confusion. Because what if Faye wasn't with Jonah at all? What if he tossed her aside and she was clinging to a fantasy that never existed? What if she was trying to use me to save face? That's when I opened her old planner. I don't know why I kept it. Maybe because it smelled like her, or maybe because I'm the kind of pathetic guy who reads old notes to remember better versions of people. But inside, tucked between two pages marked Ceramic Studio and Rent Due, was a receipt. A hotel stay 2 weeks ago, a one-night stay, paid in my name. I stared at the total. I stared at the initials written under guest signature, C. Harland. Clarity Harland. My head spun. Why would Jonah's fiancé be staying in a hotel booked under my account with my wife? Unless... No, it couldn't be. Unless Faye and Clarity weren't rivals. Unless they were allies. I wasn't invited, not officially at least. The dinner party was hosted by Clarity's sister, someone I'd never met. But the address was easy to find. I recognized it from one of the emails Faye had sent weeks ago when she told me she was attending a gallery showcase. Classic. I showed up unannounced, wearing a jacket I hadn't worn since our honeymoon. I think I just wanted to feel like myself again, or at least the version of me who thought my wife loved me. The house was warm, full of laughter, people clinking glasses, indie music in the background. I walked in like I belonged there. No one stopped me. It's amazing how invisible you become when you look confident. That's when I saw her. Faye, standing in the middle of the room, wine in hand, always wine, laughing with Clarity and Jonah. But what shocked me wasn't that they were all together. It was how close they were. Touching, whispering like this wasn't some awkward triangle, but a shared secret. Then I heard it. "Poor Emery," Faye chuckled. "Still thinks I'm in love with Jonah. Honestly, I think he's more in love with the idea of fixing me." Jonah snorted. "He thinks he was a husband, bless him." Clarity added, "At least he wasn't a complete jerk, just pathetic." My heart pounded so loud I thought someone might hear it. But I stayed frozen, tucked behind a bookshelf like a ghost in my own life. I wanted to scream, break something. Instead, I pulled out my phone and hit record. It didn't stop there. Faye kept going. I mean, yeah, I used Jonah. So what? He used me, too. We were never meant to last. He's a fantasy. Emery is a doormat. I just needed space and a distraction. Then Clarity leaned in, smirking. "So, who's next? You going to break someone else while Emery pays your rent?" And that's when Faye said it. The sentence I'll never forget. "I'm done using. I'm starting over. Emery's already out of the picture. He just doesn't know it yet." I backed out of the house, shaking. Every step felt like I was walking away from a decade of lies. They weren't even trying to hide it anymore. I was a character in their inside joke, a running gag in their twisted comedy show. But this time, I had proof. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't storm in or make a speech. I just got in my car, drove home, and uploaded the audio to a secure drive. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I needed to remember it was real. That she said it, and that she laughed, and that I was finally done playing the fool. I didn't go to work the next day, didn't answer calls, didn't open the blinds. I just sat at the table, staring at the wedding invitation and listening to the audio recording on loop. Their voices so light, so casual, cutting me to pieces without even knowing they were carving into someone still breathing. I replayed the words like I was trying to prove to myself I hadn't exaggerated anything, that I wasn't losing my mind, that it really was as bad as it sounded. And it was. I could have sent the recording to Clarity or Jonah's family. I could have gone nuclear, but I didn't want a scandal. I wanted her to feel small. Not because I was cruel, but because I wanted her to look in the mirror and for once see what I saw. Not the glowing goddess she thought she was, but the hollow shell she'd become. So, I wrote her a letter. Not a dramatic, rage-filled monologue, just facts. The kind that can't be laughed off over a glass of Chardonnay. I slipped it into a manila envelope along with a printed screenshot of their group chat transcript and a USB drive with the recording. Then I placed it on the dining table right next to her favorite wine glass. The letter began like this. Faye, you said you only liked me after a few drinks. I believed you. Now I finally understand why. Because sober, I see everything, and drunk, I forgave everything. It had been 4 months since I walked out. 4 months of no contact. No mutual friends, no curious texts, no pathetic, how are you emails. I changed my number, moved in with my cousin 2 states away, and started working at a local bookstore. The kind with uneven wooden floors, creaky shelves, and a tiny bell above the door that rings every time someone with a broken heart walks in looking for something, even if they don't know what. I wasn't healed. Not completely, but I was lighter. I stopped apologizing for being soft, for loving too deeply, for folding socks and leaving little notes, for caring too much. Turns out, those things weren't weaknesses. She just wasn't the kind of person who deserved them. Then, last week, something unexpected happened. An email slipped into my old account, the one I barely checked. The subject line read, "Accidental forward, ignore." I told her about the necklace, the receipt, the phone call with her mother, the party she didn't know I'd witnessed. I told her about the look on Jonah's face when Clarity joked that he always chases broken things, and he looked directly at her. Then I ended it with the truth she never expected. You didn't lose me. You just never truly had me. You were always too busy auditioning for people who'd never stay. I was already standing beside you, and you never noticed. I didn't leave my name, just my wedding ring taped to the final page. Then I packed a single duffel bag, left everything else behind. I didn't take the TV or the coffee machine or even the framed photo of us in Maine. Let her stare at it. Let her wonder if anything about it was ever real. Before I left, I took one final look around our apartment. The plants she never watered, the throw pillows she insisted on arranging a certain way, the cracked ceramic vase she swore she'd fix but never did. It all felt like her, beautiful at first glance, but hollow, chipped, and someone else's mess to clean up. I didn't leave a forwarding address. I just walked out and locked the door behind me. It was the quietest revenge I'd ever imagined, but it echoed louder than screaming ever could. But I didn't ignore it. It was from Faye. She had meant to send it to Clarity. Inside was a forwarded message from Jonah. And this time, it wasn't romantic. It wasn't mocking. It was brutal. You're chaos, Faye. You set fires just to feel warm. You used me, used Clarity, and worst of all, you used him. Don't call me again. I stared at the screen for a long time, not out of revenge or satisfaction, but with the strange, unfamiliar feeling, like closure. She never replied to my letter. She never apologized. But this accidental glimpse into her unraveling told me everything. She didn't win. She didn't float off into the sunset on someone else's arm. She was still running, still burning bridges she didn't know she'd need later. Meanwhile, I had stopped running. I was still whole, starting over, not out of pain, but out of choice. That night, I reopened the bookstore's little guest journal. People wrote quotes in it sometimes, or thoughts. Without overthinking it, I grabbed a pen and wrote, "Being loved for who you are feels better than being chased for who you pretend to be." I signed it simply, E. I don't know who will read it next, but I hope they do. I hope it finds someone the way peace finally found me. So, tell me, what moment in this story hit you the hardest? Was it the necklace in the dryer? The dinner party? The final message? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if you've ever walked away from someone who didn't deserve you, tell us how you rebuilt. Thanks for following Emery's journey, only here on Reddit Confessions. Until next time, choose peace.